Hello everybody, and welcome to Chanchai's Dojo. This is part of my Welcome to Virtua Fighter 5 REVO series. This episode is a special episode 0. It's about how to control Virtua Fighter, or at least my recommendations for how to set up your controller. Now, for Virtua Fighter, I do most recommend an arcade controller like a fight stick, or an all-button controller like a hitbox, or aka leverless. Those are my most recommended. However, this game plays great on everything. It plays good on pad, it plays good on fight stick, it plays good on WASD, it plays good on leverless as well. It even plays well on keyboard, and I'm going to make recommendations for all those. But generally, let's start with the arcade controllers. This would cover arcade stick, like the one that you see here, which is the one that I use when I play online. Um, but also, it also includes recommendations for hitbox, leverless controllers. I do personally prefer arcade buttons over keycaps, but keycaps are fantastic on Virtua Fighter. But I really, really do like arcade buttons, especially if you're going to play a character like Akira. Generally, the default arcade layout is perfectly fine. This is guard is here, punch is here, and kick is here. This is the most recommended layout. It is the Japanese layout, and it's very ergonomic, especially with the way Virtua Fighter plays, because the guard button is used very independently of punch and kick in Virtua Fighter. It's actually really important because a lot of times you're going to do motions like you're going to press and hold guard, then you're going to press and hold punch to hold a guard, throw, escape. You're going to frequently throw by hitting both of these, and you're going to also guard cancel a lot. So a lot of times you're going to hit like punch guard, and then you're going to hit like punch punch guards if you only want to do 2 punches instead of 3, right? And you even have kick cancels, or you're going to do PKG. So thumb on guard is actually really ergonomic. It's really nice. The guard button is used a lot in Virtua Fighter. It doesn't require the most dexterous use, but it requires an independent use, and not being on the thumb is really good for that. So that's why we recommend guard, punch, kick like this. However, if you grew up in North America, or even in Korea long ago, the arcade layouts in Korea and in North America were more like guard, punch, kick like this. And so a lot of Americans are used to doing like index, middle, and ring finger. And this is fine. I just still prefer this a lot. I switched to this about 25 years ago. When it came out on Dreamcast and we used the Green Goblin arcade sticks, I switched to this, and it's just, in my opinion, it's so much better. It's much more ergonomic. It's less strain on the hands. Whereas doing a lot of my motions will get redundant because you don't have to move your hand much in Virtua Fighter, especially with this layout. With the thumb, this is a very relaxed use of the guard button, and the guard is again very independent of how you're using P and K. So I do recommend this. You can do a combined layout if you could, but the problem is REVO doesn't seem to allow doubling up functions. So unfortunately, I guess with REVO on PC, you couldn't do my combination layout for like everyone gets to use my fight stick, which is guard, punch, kick, and then guard, punch, kick, because you have to go to the keyboard settings and make these like keyboard keys, and then you have to kind of go around or use Steam's settings to change that if you really want to do it. So with REVO, we kind of only are allowed 1 guard, 1 punch, and 1 kick button without using workarounds. And so my most recommended layout then is going to be, again, guard, punch, kick. But if people insist on doing this, this is okay. Now, for people absolutely new to the game, if they're worried about whether they can hit all 3 buttons at once, it's pretty easy to do. But if for whatever reason you just don't want to have a chance of missing that, then setting this to GPK is perfectly fine, and it's still very ergonomic. Because you are going to want to hit this for tech rolls, quick rises, and some motions, not that many. So won't use it that much, but it's not bad to have. I don't, but that doesn't mean you don't have to. This having a PKG button, all 3 buttons in one, is helpful for a lot of people. But for me, again, arcade stick, I recommend that. Now, what type of sticks are really good for Virtua Fighter? I personally prefer Japanese specs, so Sanwa and Seimitsu. Now, this is my gold lever, but it's spec to play more like a Japanese lever. However, if you've got larger hands, or you like really high tension setups, then, Korean lever is perfectly fine. your standard Korean levers are great. If you've got large hands, I definitely think a bat top instead of a ball top would probably be better. But for me, I love playing this game on Japanese arcade sticks. And my golden lever, while it is kind of a hybrid Korean lever, it's also spec to play like Japanese. But any lever will do if you're playing on fight stick. And all button controllers, anything will do. I do prefer arcade buttons over keycaps, though, just because when you're playing Akira, he has a Nia technique, which is kick and guard at the same time, but you gotta like flick the guard button, whether you flick it inward or outward. And because this guard button has to only be hit for like one frame, so like 1/60th of a second, so it's like bam, like that, while still holding the kick button. I can do that on leverless as well, but but I do it better on arcade buttons. But that doesn't mean you have to do it. If you want to do keycaps, perfectly fine, and people have found ways to do Akira's knee on keycaps as well. It's just, but I like the feeling of playing this game on arcade buttons the most. Doesn't mean that's the only way to play it though. Okay, so if you're on stick, hitbox, or WASD, then that's my recommendation. Let's talk about gamepad. So if you're playing on a keypad, which is most people, now we're going to use a DualSense controller here to illustrate, but generally there's two settings. The one I'm going to recommend to most people is to have two face buttons comfortable to be P and K. Like this being punch, this being kick is pretty good if you like to do the one thumb here. And but some people like this being P, this being K. Either's fine. But I recommend putting guard on R1. I highly recommend this for most players because of the independent use of guard. You're going to do punch guard, throw, and then you're going to do like kicking guard, and then all three, right? Now, I might put P, K, and G, all three on R2, and then maybe have a P plus K button like at circle, for example. That's probably my most recommended setup. So again, something like punch, kick, guard, and then all three, and then P plus K being one of these. That's what I'd recommend to most people that are playing on pad. That said, I do have a different setup for myself. If you want to hear it, it is because I play on arcade stick and I want to maintain the same exact feel, and also because I still like my thumb being that guard button. So for me, I actually use guard here, I do punch here, and I do kick here. Now this is only if you're comfortable with like using a trigger for like the kick button, but it's honestly not that hard. It works really well. The only controller I don't like it on is the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck's R2 is just a little extreme, and so that's actually giving me trouble when I do that. But on pretty much every other type of pad, I have no problem doing this, and especially if you have like a pro pad where you can shorten the throw on the trigger, then it's really, really great. I highly recommend it. Virtua Fighter really is a 3-button action game, but you play however you like. This game will play great on pretty much everything. And then when we're talking about keyboards are great, except they're hard to share if you go to locals. So if you plan to play at locals, or you plan to play in a tournament, then I don't recommend keyboard. But if you're only going to play at home and only going to play online, keyboards are fine. And you can do pretty much any layout that you feel is comfortable. Comfort is the most important thing, but just make sure you're comfortable hitting all 3 buttons at once. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, on arcade controllers, guard, punch, kick, highest recommendation. GPK this way is okay. It is classic for America and for Korea, but Koreans have long switched to this as well. Many of them have long switched to guard, punch, kick. The Japanese layout is just really, really comfortable. And having a PKG button is fine. Having a P plus K button is fine. But honestly, those are my recommendations for Virtua Fighter's controls.